Alright, so in this tutorial we'll have a look at creating this design, which is quite advanced compared to your previous drawings. We can see we've got a filled version on the right hand side of the screen, and we've got a line drawing with some dimensions on the left hand side of the screen. So let's get started. We'll create a new design and we'll double check the page layout. So we'll go up to the layout option here and we'll make sure we've got A3 selected and landscape selected. At the moment the grid's set up at 10 millimeters in between each dot. Let's just change that to 5, so we'll right click on the grid option up here and we'll change the X and the Y to 5 millimeters. So on the left hand side of the screen we're going to construct a drawing that's just line the dimensions, and then we'll copy that onto the right hand side of the screen and add some colour to it. So let's start with grid lock on, and we'll use a line tool to draw a vertical line like so. From the start of that line let's draw one across horizontally and another one coming down. These are going to be construction lines, so I'm going to use the select tool to select a box over them, and then we'll go up to the line button and we'll change the type to dotted, and let's just change the pitch, i.e. the distance between each dot, to something like 4 millimeters. I want to create a line at 25 degrees from this vertical line here. So I'm going to hold down the line tool, come across to the option that says draw a line at a given angle to another line, and I'm going to change that to 25 degrees. I'll then point near the end of where these three intersect and draw a line down at 25 degrees. Let's create the curve now, so we're going to use the circle tool and we'll use the second option, draw a circle with a given centre and radius, and we'll type in a radius of 80. Grid locks on, and because we use the grid to draw these lines, we'll click where those lines intersect. Then we'll use the same tool again. This time we'll right click to change the options. We want 5 millimeter thick laminate, so we're going to do 85 millimeters and place that using the same center. So let's trim off some lines we don't need before it gets too complicated. We'll hold down the delete any tool and select delete a part of an object. Let's delete this line there, that line there, and those two lines there. So this is the main curve of the laminated part. Now I need to draw a line coming off here, extending at a tangent to this curve here. So we're going to hold down the line tool and we'll choose this option here, draw a tangent from a point on an arc or circle. We need to use the attach tool for this because I want it to start from the end of this line. As you can see, the snap tool is not allowing me to get to it. So I'll right click on the attach tool, remember this from previous sessions. We'll make sure the end point is selected. We'll turn on step lock and turn off grid lock, and then we'll use that to snap to the end of this curve. This will now come off at a tangent, so it continues the curve, and we'll place one down here. We'll do the same to the other one. So we've got two parallel lines. There's a 50 millimeter length of straight laminated section here, so we'll use our contour parallel to a line tool at 50 millimeters. We'll click there, and then we can delete the parts of the line we don't want. Do I need that bit there? No, so let's delete that as well. So let's again use the contour tool to draw a line 5 millimeters from the end here. Correction, let's make that 10. Right click to change the options, remember. Click on 10 and we'll place a little line. Now that hasn't quite gone to plan, so let's zoom in and try that again. Okay, there it is. We'll delete this line from our drawing. Sometimes we need to draw lines and then move them. In this case here, let's do that. So we're going to draw a line at 50 degrees from the end, coming off at this angle. But I don't want the line to start here, I want it to start there. So another tool that we can use is this tool here, the transform tool. If we select this line, hold down the transform tool, there are many options, but the first one is move or copy. So we'll select that and we'll choose the replace option. If we click OK here, it's going to ask us where we want to move it from and move it to. So I'm going to make sure we've got endpoints selected, and I want to move it from the endpoint of that line to the endpoint of that line. So that allows me to move that to where I want it to go. Let's zoom out a little bit. I want to change the length of that line. If I just use these commands to stretch, it's no longer going to be at the correct angle. But if I right click in one of the corners, it will scale it proportionately. So the X and the Y scale factors are the same. So we'll make that up there somewhere. Let's draw a parallel line to that at 25 millimeters. Sorry, 24 millimeters. Then we use the same technique by selecting the line and right clicking on the corner scale function to extend that down to there. Let's create a line at 90 degrees to the end of this line here, and we'll create another contour spacing at 75 from that line. That gives us the overall length of the base section. Let's check on progress. So we've drawn the curve, we've now drawn this interior outline, so let's add the acrylic top and then delete any lines we don't want. So let's go in and delete these sections that we no longer need. Let's create a contour at 3 millimeters from this line and this line, and again select the line, right click to extend it so they overlap. Same for this line down here, and then we'll delete the parts that we don't need. At this point this line's getting in the way, so let's just change the length of that. This one here looks like it's a bit too short, so let's extend the length of that one and delete the parts in the middle. When you bend acrylic around a corner, it won't be a straight 90-degree corner. Let's put a little curve on that. We'll use the arcs tool. Draw a filleted arc. Let's put a radius of 3. And then we'll click on one line and the other line, and it'll put a nice little curve in between the two. If we zoom out, we can see we've now almost completed the shape. Let's just zoom into this top section and draw a solid line using the attach tool between the end of that and the end of that. And then we can zoom out and see we've now got a completed drawing. Let's look at the right hand side now. I want to copy this drawing onto the right hand side of the screen. So we'll select the whole drawing. We'll use this copy function at the bottom and then place it on the right hand side. This has been drawn at an angle. I want to rotate it so it looks like it's sitting on the tabletop. So I've got to work out what angle I need to rotate it at. So let's zoom into here and we'll draw a line that represents the table from the end of there to the end of there. Let's use this tool here. You might not have seen this before. This is called the radial lock tool. It will only allow you to draw lines, if I right click on it, at set angles. The angle here is 45 degrees. So watch what happens if I have the radial lock tool on and I try and draw a line. If I start my line anywhere and then turn the radial lock tool on, it will only allow me to draw it in angles that I've specified. So if I turn the attach tool on and draw a line, let's turn that off first, from the end of here, turn radial look on, come across, that's going to be a horizontal line. I can now use a dimensioning tool to dimension the angle between two lines, which is, we'll round it up, 33 degrees. So now, if I select this, and rather than moving it, I'm going to rotate the selected object 33 degrees. And it's asking me to choose where I'm going to rotate it about, locate the center of rotation. So I'll use the attach tool on the end of this line, and that will rotate that round for me to the correct angle. Now this drawing, we don't need these construction lines. What I think I'll also add is a line at 12 millimeters to show this is made from two pieces of 12 millimeter thick plywood. And now let's add some colour to this particular drawing, or we'll render it. We'll use the boundary fill tool for this, so we'll select the boundary fill tool. We'll choose the colour we want to fill it in, so let's go for a wooden brownie-like colour. And then we'll select inside a closed boundary. So a closed boundary has to be a complete loop of lines. So if I click just inside here, we can see it's selected it in purple or pink. Are there any islands? So is there anything in here that you don't want to be filled? No. So that'll fill in that colour. Let's right click on the boundary fill tool and change the colour to something else, like a red acrylic. And we'll fill this boundary. And let's change it again to maybe, let's do a slightly lighter brown. So we'll select the brown, custom colours, make it a bit lighter, and we'll use that for this shape and this shape. So the only thing to add to this drawings are dimensions now. Let's delete this dimension, we no longer need it, that was just for testing. And it's a matter of using a variety of dimension tools, from angles, diameters, radiuses, vertical and horizontal dimensioning, in order to get you enough detail so you can show the detail as seen here. If you're going to print this out and give it to people, people need to know what the dimensions are, i.e. the units. So we'll put some text on that states the unit of dimension, and we'll create a couple of lines or a couple of rectangles using the shape tool to create a border around our work. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more information as to how you might use some additional tools in 2D design to create a slightly more complex drawing, and ideally you would use these skills to create a version of your lamp also.